Hello and welcome to the Read Write Book Club, your bi-weekly book club podcast here at accidentalorigin.com. I am Sam, aka MC Pepper Pockets, and this is my co-host,
Brendan. How's it going, guys? And with us today is our friend Justin. We're going to be talking about Jeff Lamire's Roughneck today. So
yeah, we've got it over here too.
Yeah,
it was so good.
It was so good.
So, I just wanted to take a couple seconds right here at the beginning to say that when Jeff Lamire was publishing this book, they actually did a special contest through Chapters, which is a retail chain here in Canada, for pre-ordering this book, where they were giving away limited edition prints. And I actually won one. So here is Derek in the Forest, signed and numbered by Jeff Lamire.
That's awesome.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it's really, really dope.
One of the best shots, I think, in the whole thing, like with the trees looming.
Yeah. So, this is the first graphic novel we've done.
Yeah, and it's one of the first graphic novels I think I've ever read.
I was gonna say,
I've read a few before, but I'm pretty sure it's why I'm yours because there's pictures.
Yeah, I mean, and that is, I guess, fundamentally what sets it apart from the other stuff that we've read before.
But it's very engrossing.
Yeah,
between the artwork, which we just showed, and the writing and how it just flows.
Absolutely, they work really well together.
Yeah, but I mean, we kind of knew that. We know that you can do really awesome writing with movies and TV shows. Comics have been around a long, long time. So like humans as like are very visual people. And it wasn't until like we had better printing methods and all that stuff that we could really take advantage of those things. I'm thinking of like sort of talking about when we had magazines publishing short stories back in Victorian England and all that kind of thing, right? They didn't have the printing presses that were capable of doing this kind of image quality.
No, I mean, it would have been all, at the time, like etchings, because you couldn't just digitally create something and then have a machine stamp it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is all to say that humans as a visual creatures, since technology evolved and film came out and all that stuff, like we have really pushed ourselves into visual mediums.
We have been accidentally rated, it appears.
Hey, Erica. So yeah, we. What do we think about this book?
Well, honestly, I enjoyed it a little bit more than I anticipated because I didn't really know what I was getting into going into it. And I'm usually more a words man than a pictures man. So when it turned out, like when it managed to deliver the kind of character and the method of storytelling was kind of better than I anticipated, it was really good.
Yeah. I do want to make a quick distinction between something like this and say like your generic Spider-Man book off the shelf.
Oh, very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this
is a lot longer than a regular comic book.
It's deeper. It gets more into the characters.
Yeah, and I mean, like it's thick. It's a thick book.
That being said,
big raid incoming, guys.
To get through.
Oh boy.
Oh.
Well, greetings to everyone there. This is
hello.
This is the Read Write Book Club. Damn.
Yeah.
What does that even say? Oh, we done been destroyed.
Yeah.
Good.
Nation raid. Destroyer nation raid.
Yeah. This is a raid by my good friend Stevie. Ray Drawn, who is a digital illustrator here on Twitch. She actually writes comics. Or sorry, not writes comics. Illustrates a comic with her good friend Melissa, who is also a published author. So yeah. Totally relevant to what we're talking about.
Thank you everyone who's rating for your views. Please like and subscribe.
Right. So
I have to say it.
This will be your highest rated show because I'm here.
Probably. It's also the most recent show, and that tends to be the highest rated.
Don't
So
think, I need this.
Okay, you're right. I told everyone you were going to be on here.
yeah. So Roughneck. God.
So yeah, do we want to do like maybe a really brief plot summary, or at least like a plot pitch? Your log line.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I would say.
Yeah. That's
Can't even support himself.
oh whoops.
Yeah. What do you,
I heard a whoops.
sorry guys, spoilers.
I accidentally muted you.
Are you kidding me? Unbelievable!
No.
You muted me for my beautiful description.
Just for like 30 seconds. You're good.
Oh, just when I was talking. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
That's
All
fine.
right. All right. So, yeah. So, he's a washed-up, drunk old hockey player. It's not that old, actually.
Well, no, he's probably my age.
I would say that's on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like early 30s, maybe.
Early 30s. So, yeah, I'm older than the drunkard in this book.
Yeah. So fair.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. That's one of the questions I wrote down. Like, how old do you think these characters are?
Like I said, I pegged him for about maybe 30 to my age in that range.
Mhm.
His sister's probably early 20s.
Yeah, that's what I figured too. Like 23 to 26.
Yeah.
In that range.
Yeah. From my experience, like, for those who don't know, my little brother played junior A hockey, which is a semi-pro level. So he was pretty good, though he never really got to the level of a professional or anything like that. But when they talked about the sister, what was her name again? Beth.
Beth, yeah.
She left at 13 when he was a junior hockey player. So he was probably around 18 at the time, 18, 19.
Okay. That seems about right. Gives
Yeah, because he went to Sudbury.
Yeah,
Right.
and
With the Wolves.
he played for a like OHL team basically.
Yeah. And I know they don't say the name of the team in the book, but I just know it's the Sudbury Wolves.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna ask, like, isn't that a real team?
Yeah, it
'Cause That
is.
sounds like a real team.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, all of the places they reference in this book, except for the town itself that they're in, which is
Pimitamon.
yeah, every other place in
I
the
actually tried
book
looking it
is a
up on
real
Google Maps,
place.
and I thought I found it, but I got the name of the town wrong.
Yeah. There's some places that have very similar constructed names, but not
Oh, yeah.
not that one.
It's a native sounding name.
It's actually a Cree word, and it means crossroads.
Oh, very interesting. That says a lot for.
Yeah.
That actually very much informs the story.
Yeah, I thought so, which is why I looked it up.
Yeah. So that was something I thought was interesting about the story. Like that town felt very real.
It did.
You know, it was very founded in Ontario.
Well, I was telling you when I first started reading it, hey, OPP, this is Ontario.
Yeah.
A few pages later, hey, it's the LCBO.
I think it might be the same page.
Yeah. So
There's the RCM.
OPP's on the first one, or OPP, sorry.
yeah, and then just to give you guys a little bit of background, Jeff Lamire is Canadian. He's from Ontario. He's actually from a place called Essex County, outside of Toronto, near Sudbury. The specific town starts with a W,
Weird
and I
to
can't
say
remember.
outside of Toronto near Sudbury because that's a big distance.
Yeah,
I'm from North Bay, which is from closer to Sudbury.
yeah.
That being said, a lot of the characters in this book are kind of familiar to me because growing up in North Bay, you know those people. You've heard of those people.
Yeah.
Even around here, like we're relatively close to the edge of the city, and you know there's a lot of people who come from the small towns, the satellite towns around Ottawa, and they're not that different from this
definitely
kind
not.
of place.
The Valley's huge on hockey.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
But yeah, this was the LCBO that looks like every LCBO in a small town in the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. I swear I've been to this building.
Yeah.
With the little ramp because it's government.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to have the ramp. I love how he's like, "Hey doc, I'm here for my prescription."
Yeah. And the guy inside just like, all right,
Here you
man. Yeah. We write you out a script.
Yeah. So that is one thing that they don't talk about a whole lot, but I thought was interesting. Was he's definitely suffering from concussion symptoms, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like-
I hadn't even put that together, but yeah.
Like lasting
his-
repercussions.
Yeah,
Well,
but
the quickness to anger.
quickness to anger. He like loses track of time a
Yeah.
lot.
He complains about headaches early on when he's
Yeah.
talking
Oh, yeah.
to Ray the cop. Like a lot of headaches.
Although, to be fair, this is a man who appears to be drunk pretty much like dawn to dusk.
fair enough. But as a hockey tough guy, someone who fights for a living, like it's all
Yeah,
kind
he's
of
got-
related, right?
Yeah, and they even show in one of those flashback scenes back to his like hockey youth, him getting hit really hard. And I mean that's all tied up into the father's disapproval of him.
Well, yeah, the dad jumps on the bench and says, "Go get him,"
Yeah,
and the coach
yeah.
is like, "What?"
So I thought that was interesting because it was kind of very much a trend that transcends like whether country or city kind of hockey. That hockey parent
Rural
culture.
hockey is intense.
Even in the city, man, like it doesn't matter where you
No,
are. It's,
like coach parents who think they're coaching their kids
Yeah.
is insane. But you go to small town Northern Ontario, hockey is your lifeline to get out of that place.
Oh yeah.
yeah, I guess
They
it's-
will ride you and make you almost kill a person on the ice to get notice of a scout.
yeah. And so I mean that was a big component of what I thought those flashbacks are trying to show. Not
Yeah.
just the relationship with the father, but also that the world around him that
Oh,
this
for
was
sure.
so important.
It fleshes it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, even the father, when Beth goes back to see their dad later, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, Derek got signed to that contract. He must be real rich right now. Funny how I never see any of that money. Ha 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 ha."
Yeah. Meanwhile, Derek lives in a maintenance closet
Yeah.
in an arena.
Yeah.
He's the janitorial Harry Potter, but not a wizard.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I assume he is the guy who runs their Zamboni and
Yeah,
like
he's the rink maintenance guy.
takes care of the
Yeah.
ice and all that stuff.
Except he lives there.
Well, hockey's no longer his life, so he has to stay around it somehow.
Yeah, and I think when we're introduced to that is when he wakes up in the middle of the ice. Right?
Yeah.
In the middle of the rink.
Because he couldn't find his key.
Yeah, because he'd been on another bender.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get into his little
He left his
closet.
key in his jacket, which was at the bar after he got into a fight.
So he just goes out to the ice, and it's actually a really amazing shot. It's this one right here, where he's standing, and you just see all the rafters
Yeah.
over his head, like centering the
Every
entire-
small town arena.
Yeah, well, A, it looks like every arena, but B, like it feels a lot like the world is just closing in on him there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So I thought that kind of imagery was really interesting, and it's not like this book is not full of like interesting imagery.
Oh yeah.
You
That dog.
Yeah,
Okay, so how did you guys take the dog? It's like the way I looked at it from everything that happened. I took it as like the ghost of his mother, the spirit of his mother, trying to guide him into better things.
yeah. It was. I definitely felt like it wasn't necessarily real. So what was your take on that too, Brendan? Was real or not? Was that dog there?
That dog I don't think was real, but I actually think that dog is a symbol of his sin. And the reason I say that is because there's that awesome transition shot of going from the dog to the Minnesota Wild logo on the guy's shirt who he cross-checked and got kicked out for.
Oh, he boarded him, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like a transition shot between that dog's face and the logo on the jersey, and there was another shot later where he beats up somebody and it has the dog's face in like red around him.
Yeah, the two stripes where you see like him and the dog merge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's very much to me.
I think that's where he's beating up on the junkies, or not the dealers.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That sounds right. So for me, it's very much a like this dog is kind of a symbol of his aggression.
Yeah, and it definitely appears at a bunch of instances when he needs guidance, or where he's trying to come to a conclusion. Yeah, so I'm just trying to find that shot. Oh yeah, because that happened. And then there's one here. I don't think that's it. This is a big book.
Yeah, for sure.
But I love how like all the flashbacks are in color, and it's more used for accents and emotion.
So here's my question about that, Dustin. Do you think that's because his life in the past was more full?
It's when he felt alive. It's when he felt more human. Now he feels like a husk he's filling with alcohol.
Yeah, sorry. Here's that shot, that dog that's coming up, and you see just Derek looking really mad, and the crazed eyes and jaw of the dog barking out underneath.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's again that same kind of use of color, that emphasis.
Well, he uses Jeff uses red blood like a lot throughout this comic, and it's one of the only things that's consistently colored throughout the entire thing.
Yeah. In the hockey world, you see a lot of red because there's a lot of blood in hockey.
Yeah, and it's always falling on that white, pristine ice, the boards, the clean jerseys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But even like in that specific panel you just showed, like that's his blood rising sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's him finally breaking and just going into his kind of animal fury.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even know that they are the actual people that sold her the drugs.
He doesn't know for sure.
Yeah.
He's pretty sure.
He's lashing out, but he assumes that's them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna beat them up, beat the crap out of them, maybe kill them. But he's not sure.
Well, and even when he talks to the cop is like, they're probably the ones.
Yeah.
But I we don't know.
Mm-hmm. His cop buddies, like I was saying to you, he's more annoyed he has to do the paperwork for him beating those people up than him actually beating them up.
Well, he's kind of jaded, right? Like he's lived through this before.
Well, this is his night every night, is dealing with these drunks who, whether it's Derek or someone else, I feel like.
The way I look at it, Derek's his childhood friend.
Yeah.
And so he's basically taking care of Derek and cleaning up after him for his entire life.
Yep. Yeah, even though what's his name? Al? Is that the...
So Al is the...
No, he's the trapper.
Al's the trapper.
Al's the trapper. Yeah. Ray is the cop.
Right. Yeah. So even though Ray has got his act together and he's... he has a life, he still is picking up after everyone else. Or at least what I would imagine is like kind of this small cadre of the same guys who end up spending the night at jail frequently.
Yeah. It's really, that was one of my favorite lines in the book when he's like, "No, you're not going to arrest me. We knew each other since Pee-wee."
Yeah.
And Pee-wee, like for those who don't know hockey all that well, us Canadians who know hockey, Pee-wee is a youth league. Is like an age group in a youth league. It's about when you're like 12 to 13 sort of thing, I think.
It's after Timbits hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the little kid hockey.
Which is like 10 to 12. Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so they've known each other a long time was the kind of coded implication there.
Yeah. But it's just such a small town Canadian thing to say. Like,
well, but it's a meaningful way to convey that kind of information, right? Like they know what it means and we know what it means. And expressing it in some other way would kind of diminish from it because it takes away from the culture that they're inherently in.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there will be many Canadians who would not understand this book on a very basic level. Yeah. But you go to another country like the US who are not as into hockey, there's stuff that will go over their heads.
It would depend on where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, the further south you go, I think. The
Oh,
less
for sure.
they're
Like
gonna get it.
Minnesota, stuff like that, they get it.
Yeah, Minnesota, you would 100% get it. So yeah.
Yeah, they may look.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say they may look at like the LCBO or the OPP or whatever, and not
What's
necessarily.
the Lickbo?
Yeah, they might not necessarily recognize that, but they know that same kind of small town culture and that hockey culture, because it's very much a gradient between Canada and the U.S.
Oh yeah, Proud. What age is that?
We'll just wait. We'll slow the entire podcast down for you, Proud. It's okay.
It's Hunt and Peck.
Take your time, buddy. Just talk amongst yourselves for the moment while we wait for Proud.
Don't be mean, Sam.
Okay, no, 6 to 12. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Or maybe a little. No, that sounds right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Pee
'Cause
Wee.
before that, they're like training to like here's skates, don't fall down.
Yeah, they're too
Hit a
small
puck.
to.
You got a goal. Everyone
Exactly.
wins.
Yeah.
I don't think under 6 you even really understand
No,
what hockey
Yeah.
is.
you just want to skate and not fall down.
Yeah, that's the best you can achieve.
Yeah, and my brother started playing competitive hockey at 10 years old. So
Yeah, and that's not unusual.
It starts early, for
Yeah,
sure.
and I like they have a lot of these hockey programs because you need to have that kind of training for your entire life.
Oh yeah.
To even be vaguely viable as a professional hockey player.
As a Canadian who cannot skate, I would never be able to play hockey.
Shut it down. Get him off this podcast. It's over.
Road hockey, I'm fine with. I'm actually ambidextrous with a hockey stick.
Okay, well, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't think I can handle a hockey stick well with either hand. I can skate.
You can
fine,
high
though.
stick.
Yeah, it's what the hatchet maneuver is. for.
Exactly.
That's legal in hockey, right?
No, you're thinking of lacrosse.
Oh, same game. This one's on rollerblades.
How do they get those horses in the pool for polo? For
It's
water
difficult, man. Like, and they're as much as they like it, you gotta get a whole different setup for the saddle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So underrailing ourselves here for a moment.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit about Derek, or talking quite a bit about Derek, and we kind of mentioned his sister Beth.
Right. Whose story is very intriguing.
Yeah, who has her own interesting story. And I guess my question was, who do you think is the main character?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Is it Derek, or is it? I would kind of lean toward it being actually Beth, because she's the impetus for all the action.
It's true. I would ask, is there a main character though?
Well, that's fair.
Like, there's the main like protagonist and antagonist, but like you could say Derek is a protagonist and an antagonist all in one.
Yeah, and you can have more than one. But yeah, actually, that's very true. Is it's more about Derek fighting and Beth fighting their own problems than about trying to overcome any external issue, because those are all byproducts of their own internal problems.
Yeah.
Yep. I would agree with that. I think this story is much more about man versus self, or woman versus self, than any external source. Though there are some very good antagonists in this.
Oh, they definitely have a villain per se.
Yeah.
I would say too, because the dad.
Yeah,
To an extent, he's like very background.
Well, he's certainly, I think, what Derek blames for a lot of his problems.
Oh, for sure.
Whether or not that's 100% true. The other thing I thought that was interesting about the father is because it's Beth who goes back and talks to him and gets her closure, but not Derek. I feel like even at the end when he's kind of decided to clean himself up because of all the things that happen in the book, and because he's trying to take responsibility finally, I think he still blames himself for becoming his father.
Yeah.
I definitely agree.
His father, they show his father younger, and they're drawn very similarly.
Yeah, I thought it was almost a little tough to tell them apart. Like, it looked almost like exactly the same face.
Yeah.
Not quite, but real close.
Because if he didn't yell at him and say Derek, you would think maybe he was yelling at his son or another little hockey player.
Yeah, it could totally be.
For sure. For sure. What did we think about the father?
Well,
Very stereotypical.
Yeah, he seemed like he was filling a stereotype or like a trope of that angry, overly aggressive father.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he changed when Beth went to see him?
No, I think he just got older.
Yeah, well, I think that is a kind of like change in its own way.
His outlook might not have changed, but like he can't enforce his will on people as much anymore.
Right, and it seemed like he just kind of resigned himself to things just being shitty at that point. He's not. It doesn't even seem like he was still like the raging alcoholic that he once had been. He's too sad even for that. Is what it really felt like.
Still just a dick.
Yeah, just he watched his own life collapse, and this is just him kind of shuffling through the ruins of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting that the mother died while trying to leave him, and Beth comes back all these years later, and it's just like, so yeah, this is what was actually happening that night. What do you?
And this is where my thing about the dog being the mom came in, because the dog was there as they were sitting on the side of the road, and that's before the thing with the hockey, where he boarded the guy.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because the first instance you see it is just after the car over there.
Well, in chronologically, yes.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, because like imagery of it appears earlier in the book, but yeah, that's the first time Derek would have seen it.
And neither of them really acknowledged the dog.
Yeah,
he doesn't even acknowledge it till later on.
Well, does anyone else acknowledge the dog? No. Okay.
No one else sees it as the way I see it.
That's what it felt like to me too, except for maybe. No, actually, even then, I was gonna say maybe the time they were running through the woods, like when he was chasing it.
Yeah.
But even then, when he gets to Al, who's checking his trap lines, the dog is gone, and he's just
Al doesn't even mention
running.
anything about a dog. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, do you think there's something to the imagery of the forest in this book? So they spend a lot of time in the forest.
Absolutely.
What do you think it is?
Yeah, it's all over the place. Even the chapter headers, or the chapter break pages, are those birch trees, those skinny, tall, straight birch trees. Yeah. One more every single time you have that page. Yeah, exactly. Just like in that shot. Those are all over the place, and those are all over Ontario.
I don't know how far north you guys have been, but those forests up north, they're so dense. They seem like a wall.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like, especially in that shot. Brendan got signed there. That sense of the world closing in, like these trees reaching up and over, just enclosing everything.
Yeah, it's claustrophobic.
Yeah. Even when he's outside, he's in like a clearing, you can feel the trees almost moving inwards towards him.
Which is an interesting...
It's holding him to this place.
Well, it's an interesting motif that's constantly reappearing, right? Of that sort of claustrophobia and being trapped. When you were talking about the arena, Sam, when you're saying, like all the struts and all that are like closing in, that's a big space. Just like that forest is probably a pretty big forest with like lots of land and area. But yeah, it's claustrophobic.
Well, and I feel like there are panels where you kind of go from the sort of outside perspective of someone walking through these open environments to then Derek's perspective, where everything is like those trees are really tall and they're forming that ceiling over him.
One thing that really resonated with me in this is when they're walking through the snow, especially the forest, you hear the crunch, crunch, crunch.
Oh, man.
All their footsteps, and that echoes. I could hear that in my head reading the crunch of the snow.
Absolutely. That seems
really atmospheric.
But it's also a very familiar sound to us.
That's what I was going to say. Every time you walk outside in the winter,
it's a lonely sound though, because whenever you hear that, there's no one else around.
Yeah,
that's a fair point.
Yeah,
that's
because that's all you can hear. Yeah. No one's talking because otherwise you wouldn't hear.
It's quiet, but it's deafening at the same time.
Yeah.
Intriguing. I hadn't thought about that.
So what about like they don't appear everywhere, right? Like not every time they're walking are there these crunches.
It's done with intent for sure. It's to bring up the tension, like something's gonna happen, and the crunching is bringing you up to that crescendo almost.
Yeah, I would say it happens even when they're together, like the two siblings, but it's in those weird, awkward silences in between their like.
When you're alone but together.
Yeah.
You're walking and not looking at each other.
I did laugh though because they wear the exact same type of boot.
I didn't notice that. But
There's so many ways you can really draw a boot, though.
Well, fair enough, but they're wearing the same kind of boot, and I think that was intentional because there was when you first see the sister, there's like a transition between Derek walking, and then you flip the page, and it's Beth walking.
Yeah.
And you kind of
down the highway.
Yeah, but it's almost like one of those cool film fades of like you're seeing a set of footsteps, and then those footsteps are suddenly different, and it's someone else.
Well, that happens more than once, right? Like when you transition between Derek walking alone down the highway in the middle of the night after getting kicked out of the bar, and then suddenly he's back on the ice, and it's that slightly similar but not quite skates on ice kind of sound.
Yeah, and this graphic novel is very cinematic.
Yeah,
and its execution.
Really.
I love that title page flip. Right at the beginning,
Yes.
we're like, the title isn't in the beginning of the book. Like the first page is literally the publisher, and then you're instantly into the story.
Yeah, and then you suddenly change the page, and you get boom,
Roughneck,
the cover. Yeah, like the beginning of an anime.
Right?
Yeah.
And there was also that
there's energy to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
Like it feels almost Tarantino-esque, like this would kind of go boom onto the screen.
Well, we were saying even there's one frame of him in the bar as he gets into a fight, and he's just like a Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of my favorite pages in this book. Is
Yeah, the black page.
Yeah.
when Derek goes unconscious and there's just two black pages. And
See, I took that as that he died.
I wasn't sure when I first saw it too. I felt like,
Because the next time you see him, he's walking with the dog in the forest.
oh boy, oh yeah, this is him in the afterlife now.
Yeah.
So
And he's like, you can tell it's more peaceful because I don't think you see the crunching noises. It's almost like he's on a peaceful walk through the forest with the dog.
Yeah.
that's intriguing.
When he's finally
Because
calm.
you say he's like, I've let it go. His last words is,
So
I let it go. And
the reason I talked about concussions and all that at the beginning was because of this page right here. See this big thud down at the bottom where he hits his head on the snow?
yeah,
This,
I'd say that's asphalt, but
well, yeah, you're right. It's in the parking lot.
Whether it be
it's hard.
when he smacks his head on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that moment of like, who knows? We don't know what happened.
It's very ambiguous, and I definitely think it's done that way on purpose.
Oh, it totally is. It's 100% done that way. It's about the reader interpreting their end of the story. I, for example, did not think he died. But you do make a very good. Well, so I personally thought that it was more of him moving out into the woods and discovering himself and discovering his past. Where,
Maybe, but now
But that
I'm looking
that
back.
last frame of him walking in the woods is in sort of like in color as well.
yeah, it's
Well, and
but I personally thought that was the transition into the color was him transitioning into a fuller life, where his life is starting to come back together.
Yeah, that's possible, but
I can definitely see that.
looking back at it, like you don't see him with anyone else
Yeah,
after that page. It's Al and Beth in their car going up to Fort Albany to get back in touch with their family, and Derek just kind of lurking in the woods near the street.
Yeah, and he's smiling and with a dog that no one else sees.
And he finally makes contact with him.
Yeah, the dog licks him.
So I can definitely see that as being like his end, whether literal or figurative. But it's like
Now I can't remember. Could you see footprints from the dog before in
Yes.
other scenes?
from his perspective, but
From his,
but
yes.
as soon as they cut to anyone else, then suddenly
Yeah.
it was all gone.
Well, yeah, but there was never really a moment where they switched to somebody else and we should have seen the dog.
No, the dog just never appeared when anyone else was around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I personally felt when I was first reading it that it was very much a sort of like moving forward into the future, and because he made so much progress in that fight, like that fight at the end where he stopped the cycle of violence, he moved out to the woods and just started doing those things that Al was showing him about being a trapper and living in the quiet and coming to terms with yourself, sort of thing.
I can totally see that, but the only reason I'm not thinking it is because none of that's shown. It's very ambiguous.
Right.
But the way I get it, like you cut to black, and that's death.
Mhm.
And the next time you see him, he's happy. He's with the dog, who I think is his mom. And then he walks off into a color landscape.
Yeah, that totally works as an interpretation. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty solid.
I agree.
Based on what we're looking at.
I agree entirely. I think
But
it's
I can
a
see
very
where you
good
are, because when
interpretation.
the last page is Al driving with Beth up to see her extended family, who she doesn't know about.
Yeah.
And that's in somewhat color as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely, well, I thought that was both their parallel
Yeah.
journeys forward, right? Like now that they've kind of resolved that crisis, and now they're going to try and unravel the rest of the knots that they've built for themselves.
Yeah. But then, if that's their parallel journey, is it still a parallel journey if he's dead?
Well, maybe they're like mirrored, right?
Like they're both in peace now.
Yeah. That's what. Well, and also the other thing is that Beth is pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a new life and potentially the end of an old life as a kind of symmetry.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if he did live, it would be very interesting to see how he went on from there, given that he just kind of confronted his big problem, well, one of his many problems, which is his violence, and found a way to turn that into something productive.
He also kind of got over some of his alcoholism problems, because you saw him refuse the whiskey in the bar a little bit before that. Not to say that he's completely done with all that, but I'm just saying like it's
definitely a turning point.
Yeah, it's a turning point, exactly. Where, he's like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna.
So what do you think that turning point actually was? Was it when he found out Beth was pregnant? Was it when he found out that she had gone to see the father and that he was still fucked up and kind of sad?
I think it's a combination, because you see him on the snowmobile heading back into town, and there's a few panels of him just looking into the distance, and he's like contemplating. And there's probably that point in there where he clicks, going like, I need to do something to help her. What can I do without hurting myself?
Well, do you think that's it? Because his ultimate solution is to sacrifice himself to this guy.
That's the thing. Like, he's doing what he feels is the best thing, because he's always been the one doing the hurting.
Yeah.
And then if he receives it, it's kind of, I guess, to him, erasing some of what he's done.
Yeah, he pays penance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I disagree. I personally think that he went there with the full intention of beating the shit out of that guy. But when he got there, he realized that how would that solve anything?
Oh, I definitely think he started his journey thinking that and wanting to do that, but there was a point where that changed.
Yeah, but that, I guess, was the core of my question is, at what moment does he decide not to murder this guy? When does he decide that it's better?
I can see it being when he first gets punched, because he just decides not to retaliate. He just stands there. And that's when the other guy loses his mind and just starts saying, hit me back, hit me.
So maybe it's more the cops, what's the right word for it? Like, maybe it's more his impetus that caused this change, because he was the one who said, like, if you go back there, I will be forced to arrest you. You will go to jail. Like, I can't look away again. Yeah, that moment when
Yeah, he's thinking about his sister.
Singing about his sister. Because this is her at 13, and this is her now, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
And the
Oh,
change.
actually, are you sure one isn't the mother?
No, that's the sister.
Pretty sure it's the
Okay.
And
sister.
another thing about this, he's one of the only characters who gets color. The abusive boyfriend.
Yeah, I was going to ask
His
about
plaid
that.
is-
Yeah. Is sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because he's covered in blood?
I think
A
that's
lot of
part
blood
it.
on his hands. Yeah.
Yeah, like more figuratively than literally. He's not painted in blood.
But he's also very emotional, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's passionate, and you can feel that kind of rage, the same kind of rage that's coming off Eric, boiling off this other guy. Although we don't get his story, we don't know why he's so.
No,
messed up.
like he is the force of nature that is evil.
Yeah, the abusive boyfriend, another guy who represents what the villain that Derek thought his father was.
Yeah, and Derek was eventually going to end up being if this didn't happen.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Beth literally calls Derek the same type of person as him, like multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's like, you're the same, you're a drunk asshole. Like, and he's sort of, in a certain sense, he's literally confronting himself in that situation. Or a version of himself.
Yeah. Well, I think that's his way of confronting his father by proxy. Like he's working through that issue by trying to show that he's the better man. Like he doesn't have to fight back. He can achieve more by like suffering, or taking that abuse where he was the one doling it out before.
Yeah. I know that their relationship was definitely strained and not necessarily a great one, for sure. But I very much got the feeling that the violence was a way of getting his father's respect, more so than like an outlash of the way his father treats him. So for me, I honestly don't see the father as that much of a villain and that much of his psychology. But I don't know. I could definitely.
I think he's more of a MacGuffin. He's just there to help with the plot. He's a reason.
Yeah, he pushes Derek to behave the way he behaves.
Yeah.
Like they show in that early hockey game.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Is like when Derek does that, he sees his father smiling, and he kind of smiles too. Like, oh yeah, he like, this is my father's approval.
He'll approve.
Exactly, validation from his father.
So, I don't know.
One thing I just noticed, actually, I was just thinking when you guys were talking, that last frame where he's walking in the woods with the dog into the colored forest, same as the cover, except he's walking alone.
Oh, very interesting. Is that another image that they show? Do they show that
I
earlier?
don't think
you
they do.
No.
Because it's almost the same image from a different angle, but without the dog.
Yeah. No, that's because the cover kind of feels like a metaphor for a lot of the book, right? Like it's kind of the whole thing condensed down. It's Derek's journey into this forest of his own problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. What did you guys think about the mother's accident?
I thought I'm a little confused. What exactly caused that
Yeah, I was
car
gonna
to
say
flip over?
we never see what causes it. They're driving and suddenly the car's flipping and on fire.
If
Maybe it doesn't matter.
I don't think it does because she found the courage to leave. She was taking the act of leaving, bringing the kids to a better life, and then something just accident and they go back.
The only detail I
kinda
noticed in that entire sequence was if you can take the way that Beth remembers it when she's walking down that road, literally, the mother is looking out the window to the right, at the side of the road.
Right, like so it might be a deer or something that she's swerving around and rolls the vehicle.
Yeah, so like that's what I was thinking. Like either she swerved around something or she hit something. Like if she was going too fast and like adjusted too quickly and like I don't know.
Well, that whole sequence seemed to be kind of a turning point for Beth because in her mind she's viewing the accident. She kneels down where the car would have been and talks to her dead mom,
Yeah,
who's in the car.
Yeah, it's another instance of seeking closure.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I mean, she literally ran away from home after that, right?
Well, Derek left, and then she left for Toronto.
Yeah,
Right, and then she has her own whole tale
Yeah.
of horror, living homeless, and
Well, she connected up with native kids from up there,
yeah,
and it was like camping in the summer, not so great in the winter, which I can completely see.
yeah, it'd be pretty chilly even in Toronto. It's
Yeah.
pretty darn
It's
cold.
that lake effect snow.
Yep. Yeah, the 3 meters of snow in one night.
Yeah.
Haven't quite had that here, but close enough.
No.
yeah. So
The story of the sister, she gets a job as a waitress, and then that good job goes away, and she gets a crappier job at a crappier bar, and that's where she meets the boyfriend.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and like he always had the pills on him, but she didn't start taking the pills then. It was at the other job. Oh, we were drinking, and then one night they brought these pills out, and it was better than anything.
Yeah, it's always great the first time you do something
Yeah.
like that. It's only well, and of course, so this is OxyContin, right?
Yeah.
They're talking about. It's not just some anonymous pill drug
No,
that
no,
is just
yeah.
there. They very much lay it out, and this is very much a real problem in
Yeah.
Ontario, well, all across Canada
Oh,
and the United
very.
States, frankly.
but yeah,
Uh,
definitely small town Ontario has a huge problem with OxyContin and that kind of thing.
Well, and any of the other opiates and stuff out
Well,
there.
that's not exactly hard to find.
No, not something OxyContin was anyway easily prescribed.
Yeah,
Now there's more controls on it to a degree.
Yeah.
because I know you can't renew a prescription of it unless you have specific instructions from your doctor or specific
Yeah.
permissions.
Oh yeah, exactly for this reason. It was so easy to get extra pills. They need to sell them off to someone, and suddenly they're unconscious in the arena janitor room.
Yeah.
like Beth was at one point.
Yeah.
When I first saw that panel of them looking so surprised, looking into the room, I thought you turned the page. I thought she was going to be hanging.
Yeah, I thought she'd be dead too. I didn't know. Maybe not hanging, but
Yeah,
corpse.
Yeah.
Anyway.
because that seemed what they were going towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
Do you think it was a suicide
I
attempt?
think what? No, I don't.
No, she was just looking for a fix.
Yeah, but I think Derek could easily have interpreted it as that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I guess that's kind of the whole reason they go up into the woods is to get really the both of them away from that. And it's interesting because I think like the further away from other people they go, the further into themselves they go.
Yeah, definitely.
There's like the distance between the truth that they can experience about themselves and what they're able to reveal to other people.
well, and she's also going through withdrawal.
Yeah.
Both of them are.
Yeah, well, he has his little flask, so it's not as hard for him, obviously, but he's going through. But with her, like, she doesn't sleep. When she sleeps, she's not being able to wake up. She's puking. She's shivering.
Yeah.
And that part where she gets down right next to the fire on the floor, and he actually, for the first time, seems genuinely concerned. Are you okay?
Yeah.
And
well,
then they both fall asleep there on the floor. Is the first like touching moment between them where they were like, "Hey, this is brother sister."
yeah, they finally reconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting to note that after that kind of sequence, Jeff starts drawing Beth a lot cleaner, a lot less bags under her eyes, sort of thing. Like you can see visually her
The character
recovery.
smiles.
Yeah, she looks healthier. She looks younger, less.
And it's at this
Strong.
point she learns about Al growing up with her mom,
Yeah.
going to the residential schools,
Yep.
and how she has family she's never met.
Yeah, in the nearby Fort Albany.
Yeah.
Which is whatever they say, a couple dozen kilometers away,
Yeah.
like an hour or so drive or something like that.
It's 230 kilometers away.
Oh, that's a lot further than I
Yeah, 2.5
interpreted.
hours.
Well, just because that's what the sign says on the last page there.
Oh, sure, okay.
So, like, far enough that you wouldn't go there, like, all the time, but close enough that you could go there every now and again.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, especially if
couple
it's
hours.
family.
For sure.
Yeah. Cool.
Like where I'm from, North Bay is like 4 hours away from here.
Is it really only that much?
Yeah, well, it depends how 4.5. Depends how you drive.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because it like, in the sort of psychological geography of Ontario, it feels further away than
Oh,
that.
for sure. But the more you do that drive, the less time it feels like.
Yeah, I get that. You get used to it, the landscape, you can feel how far you've gone.
Yeah, like, oh, I see this hill. I know we're this far.
Yeah.
I see this field. Okay, we got that much further to go.
Yeah.
Did you get that sense of kind of familiarity about the Minotaur?
I did.
What was it called? There was kind of that one that one intersection, that one crossroads that every
Minimum.
scene, yeah, that every scene in that town takes place in, though.
Oh, yeah.
Where the bar, the LCBO.
There's a few places in North Bay where like it is that intersection where people will live in that intersection
Yeah,
and they live around
everything's
it.
right
They
there.
don't leave it.
Yeah, all the large buildings of the surrounding 100 kilometers are right there.
Yeah, well, not even large buildings. It's the congregating places. It's the bar. It's the corner store. It's the gas station.
Well, that's what I mean, though. I think those are probably the largest physical structures aside from the arena. Maybe those are probably the biggest buildings.
The arena is
nearby.
definitely the heart of a community up there.
Yeah.
Next to the LCBO and the gas station.
But they would all be adjacent.
Oh, they would be.
Yeah. I agree. I've like, and from my experience, like, I've been to small towns in other countries like Ireland and all that are very, very similar in the way that those are kind of laid out, right? Where, there's a church and then the bar's across the street, and then like 2 blocks away there's the athletics association, and that's where they play Gaelic football and like all that kind of thing and like all that jazz, right?
I could not have described a more Irish scenario. There's only 3 things in this town: a church, a bar, and a Gaelic football
Or
pitch.
there's a rugby pitch.
Yeah.
Well, it's the
But
same.
still-
It's the same place, right? Like they play rugby and
Church
Gaelic.
bar, yes, I know about that.
But yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying, like, the construction is very similar to like how this town is portrayed, right?
It's archetypal. You get it everywhere. It's the way people are.
Yeah, and that's how towns form, right? You have some place where more than one person wants to be, and as soon as you have more people, then more people want to
build that up, and
it's the network effect.
Yeah.
And it's usually along the main road.
Yeah, body of water where 2 roads come together. Anytime that there's ease of transportation or something, like 2 people are going to bump into each other traveling in other directions.
Yeah. I keep bringing it up, but North Bay's kind of really like that. They call it the gateway to the north. And it was huge with rail back in like the early 1900s. But now it's like it's the gateway to cottage country. So you're either North Bay to go to school, and if it's the winter, you're ice fishing, skidooing, or drinking.
And probably a combination of those
Yeah,
3.
and in the summer you're hunting, you're hunting, fishing, or drinking, and again a combination.
Yeah, you're in a tree drinking beer, fishing for moose.
Yes, it's a high test line.
Yeah, steel cable
What kind of lures do you use for moose?
for meese. I heard that coming out.
I was gonna say meese.
I don't know. I assume just some branches or like leaves or something. That's what moose eat.
Sure, maybe.
It's gonna go with a apple fritter or a honey griller.
Oh man, you could catch me on one of those. Oh, now I want an apple fritter.
There's time.
Post-stream snack.
Post-stream snack. Post-stream snack.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
This book is so familiar, though. It's weird because I cracked it open, started going through it, and I'm like, I know these places. I know these people.
Yeah.
It's like so familiar. I tore through it, and my wife was like, "You finished that?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's not a huge book, but it was like 45 minutes."
I was impressed by how fast you can get through it, yet still it has like a density of storytelling to it.
I couldn't stop turning the pages at the end. When I saw those 2 black pages, I was like, "Oh my
that
god.
was so neat.
So I'm gonna talk a little bit about comic book writing and pacing right now, because this is a thing that I do. If you've tuned in to some of the other Accidental Origin streams, like I write comic books, and the way that Jeff Lemire like paces things in this book is fascinating to me. I adore his style. He's writing another comic book right now called Royal City, which is about a city kind of like Guelph, or the town that he grew up in, and is about a family that's kind of being torn apart by the death of this kid, like the little brother. And there's all kinds of like Jeff Lemire is known for this kind of style, right? Of this sort of like broken family, outcast, isolationist sort of storytelling. But yeah, this style is something that I kind of aspire towards, of that like it breathes, it gives you time in between the dialogue and the moments to experience the world visually.
Yeah, the number of pages that have no words on them whatsoever that still manage to tell a story.
Oh yeah, the pacing's fantastic. Like there'd be whole pages where you're just like, okay, what's going on? I don't need words, but this is showing me exactly the emotion of these stories.
Yeah, and whether it be little flashes of color or little flashbacks to just like the feet walking, that's a recurring motif. Everything really delivers. Even when it's quiet, like it's a page that's almost totally white. You know, there's just a couple sketched lines here and there.
Yeah. And I love the ink work in this book. Like the ink washes he does for some of the backgrounds and all that are so fantastic.
I love the art style.
Yeah, and this is Jeff's like personal style that he does for all of his independent stuff that he writes himself. But I'm trying to find. Oh yeah, it was this page here, with like him lying in the parking lot. But just like look at these like ink bursts.
Those clouds in the background.
Yeah, but they're really just
What
like weird imperfections in the ink spots and stuff. Like it's just super cool.
Look, like there was a concentration of ink that's kind of bled out into the paper.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, you know, it's bleeding out into the sky, into the world.
Yeah, I love it.
That is something that's interesting about that watercolor kind of effect. Is because it does bleed and it does stray outside the lines quite a bit. It's interesting to see that as kind of something similar to the way Derek constantly pushes over.
Oh, definitely. It's a messy story. It's not clean.
Yeah.
It's the life of this character. It's messy. The artwork reflects that, and it works incredibly well.
Yeah, it's a really great instance of the medium being the message. Like the sketchiness of things just delivers just enough information that you can see exactly what's happening without having to be bogged down in too much detail.
Oh yeah.
It really delivers, and it's impactful, but it also moves really quickly because there's no need to really linger on any particular page. Like there's some of those full page spreads.
Yeah.
They've got a lot going on in them, but they're more like impressionistic than deeply detailed. You're not going to find little things in the corners, probably.
I wouldn't be surprised to see any of these panels hanging on a wall somewhere, like the print that Brendan has.
Oh, yeah, that thing would look amazing framed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I will be getting that eventually. I do love that print. But yeah, I definitely agree, and there's something about the way that I was telling Sam about this at one point, I think, where I was saying that like Jeff's style is not technically great.
Yeah, it's not a painterly style.
It's not like super realistic or anything like that. It's very stylized. But he uses his style very effectively to tell his own stories, and how he does that just to give some weird examples, but if you read like Trillium, for example, which is another interesting sci-fi book that he did, like miniseries, about the Trillium flower, specifically, of Ontario. But
I was going to say, another Ontario story.
It's not really about Ontario, but it's got that symbol, right? But yeah, where he has panels half the book is written upside down or on the other page upside down. Like
That's amazing.
It's fantastic because there's like two parallel stories that are interconnecting and they're told separately. So you like read through the book and then you flip it over and you read the rest of it the other way.
That's really interesting.
That is really cool.
Right?
That's like Memento level shit.
Yeah, and there's like he really used that format effectively in that book. And we're not here to talk about that book too much, but he knows what he's doing is kind of my point. Is that he really is able to use comics as a medium to tell a story that only you could tell in a comic book.
So I think that's an interesting point. You think this particular story is only tellable in this format?
I think you could tell it as a film, but I don't think it would be as good.
What would you lose, do you think?
I think you would lose a little bit of that isolationist moment. I think you'd lose a little bit of that quiet in a certain sense, because the problem with film is that North American audiences specifically are super used to having background soundtracks no matter what.
Yeah.
Right? So
music did not come to mind at all reading this, because those silences are stark.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's even any instances where there's like music playing in the background, like even in the bar.
No.
It just feels like maybe the TV's on and that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
the
Well, he
sounds,
says turn up the game.
yeah, so yeah, even then it sounds like it's kind of just quiet. Like there's near silence.
Like there's
bar.
that background murmur that all bars have.
Yeah, conversation, but like not loud, not a raucous kind of bunch of people yelling over each other.
Right.
Yeah, it's a northern bar. It's not a pub.
No.
But
No,
I feel like you'd lose that sense in a film because you'd have to portray it semi-realistically.
I think there are people who could pull it off. I think like a Jim Jarmusch or someone like that who's very comfortable with silence and like staticness in frame could pull it off.
Sure, I can see that.
Uh,
And I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying that I feel like it would lose a certain something.
You would have to have the right director to have that vision and be able to actually pull it off.
yeah, it requires. I think that you would have to be someone either from Ontario or like Canadian. Like
I would
there's a
say
certain
someone from Ontario, because you get a certain sense. You know your province.
yeah.
You feel it.
There's all those little local things, even the way those buildings look on that main street.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go over to Stittsville, Maine, and you'll see all those the same identical post office, all those ones that were built during the centennial.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, we're kind of in a unique place because across the river we have Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that influence of the French.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a little different exactly where we are because even on the other side, there's a lot of.
I just realized.
Like that water tower is in Stittsville.
I just
Yeah,
realized.
it's almost it.
I just realized that the bar is beside the church.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Near the water tower.
Yeah, it's all the infrastructure of that town.
Yeah.
Your booze,
It
your
starts
religion,
here
and your
and
water.
then goes a little bit here, and then there's some over here.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's about it.
I agree with you that you'd have to use the silences very well. I feel like you would lose a little bit with like sort of the weirdness of like pages like this in a film.
Yeah, that'd be difficult to achieve.
It's almost an anime page,
yeah.
Yeah.
but if this were to be a movie, it would have to be heavy on the Foley. Not as much soundtrack, but more Foley, like especially the crunches in the snow.
Totally.
That fight scene, where any of the fight scenes, you need heavy hits.
Yeah.
Because he's a hockey player. He knows how to hit.
Yeah, a lot of people like putting hammers into sides of beef.
Exactly. Cracking some celery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that bone crushing noise.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that for sure.
So I guess, or what I felt like I was getting at there is, yes, I think it could work as a movie because I feel like it really does, or it could be adapted to be like a storyboard close to that in structure already. But I mean, if this were to be a novel, so like, could this be done all in words?
No.
I don't think it would deliver
No, I
quite
don't
the
think it
same
would.
thing. Those moments of impact, like having the title card just appear,
So
or those two black pages that you can't reproduce, I don't think, in just text.
No,
definitely not.
there'd be a lot of written exposition that would just be very heavy
So
and kind of very clumsy.
So my kind of problem
Yeah.
with the novel format for a story like this is that it is better because we don't see inside their heads. And you can do that in a novel, yes, but I feel like it would feel very it would feel too isolationist in a certain sense. You just be kind of hearing descriptions of things, and I don't know, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it would make it, well, I feel like it needs to be more specific, and that's why having those particular images in there makes it more concrete. This isn't just any story where you can imagine what these characters look like. It's about these people.
Yeah.
I know you guys are younger than me, but back in the late to mid '90s, on Showcase, they had a lot of like art house movies where I feel this would fit very well, but it's very specific, where there wasn't a lot of music, but it was a lot of silences and long holds of the camera. But it was very arty. It was very specific to Showcase at that point in time.
Okay.
I think
And
I know what
I
you're
think
talking
it
about.
would fit as a story there in that time period.
See,
it's hard to describe.
I feel like this would be a really cool, like, television special. Like,
You could do that.
like something that you would play, and it would be like very, very light on like what am I saying? Like, it'd be very light on music, and it'd be very light on like a lot of things. So it would be kind of that like late night television sort of style special or mini series that would like really fit with like a Canadian
relatively inexpensive production.
yeah, but it'd be like one of those things that you'd see when you're watching like the CBC Canadiana like style production stuff. Like,
See that?
you know what I mean? Like that sort of like, we're going to be artsy in this sense, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're artsy and you know it, go on CBC.
It's like those movies you see that are somewhat low budget, but you know they are Canadian. You can just tell.
Yeah, there's a style to it.
yeah.
Aside from the funded by Arts Council of Ontario
Or the
thing that's
Film
at
Board
the
of
end.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The NFB, the National Film Board of Canada.
Oh, National Film Board.
Well, they help with some good work. They help with some shit work, but mostly good.
They have been a significant impact in the Canadian film and television industry in a lot of very beneficial ways.
There's probably hundreds of movies that wouldn't have gotten made, or short films, or
but
student
not
work or
even
whatever. Yeah.
stuff that they help fund, but even like I don't know, because you guys haven't lived in Toronto. I don't think. I know Sam hasn't, but
No, I have not.
I lived in Toronto for a while when I was going to school, and the National Film Board has a movie theater, like an office with a movie theater, and they show their own productions and like stuff with different film festivals and all that going on in the city, and they have classes there and like all kinds of stuff like that is, I think, is super important to bringing that industry to pushing up that industry kind of thing, of like, it's not just about the films that they made, but also about the impact they have on the creators' lives, or like bringing up new creators sort of thing.
Yeah, it's sounds very farm to table, but for creatives.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot in Toronto because there's also the Bell Lightbox, which is a TIFF-owned theater that does special exhibitions and does talks and roundtables and all kinds of stuff there too. I actually saw a really great one on web series, like making stuff for YouTube and all that there. But they did like they had like a special exposition on Tim Burton and stuff for how like Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli, and like all kinds of stuff. That's really cool.
Man, that sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, they're a really neat place.
And all I thought Toronto had was a zoo.
It has that too.
It has
Just
that
there's
too.
lots of other stuff.
Yeah.
There's that. There's the Rob Ford and company, and I mean, what else do you need? You got your circus. You got your zoo. You got everything.
Fair enough.
We don't need American politics. We've got us enough ludicrous bullshit here.
Right.
Yeah, but theirs is so far away. It's more entertaining because it doesn't affect me as much.
Yeah. Let's not get into that.
No.
We try and maintain a
Back to Ontario.
politically neutral stance broadly.
Please.
I feel like we've covered kind of, I think, the core of what we're going to cover here.
I agree.
Is there anything significant that you had still that you wanted to put forward, Brendan?
No, I crossed off pretty much all of my notes. I got pretty much everything. You guys got anything?
One more sound note. They every time there's a skidoo going, they have the e. It's so accurate. It's crazy. Like you can hear it off in the distance, and that's what it sounds like, a little mosquito coming, getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
A giant lawnmower approaching you. Yeah.
There's a subtle art to doing proper sound effects in comics, and it's a lot harder than it looks. Like finding that
It's done really well here.
Yeah, it's finding that exact combination of things to really hit that nail on the head, and it's not always what it seems like.
Yeah, it's not all just those star explosions that say bop or wham, like
No,
like you're in a
like-
Batman comic.
He's lived these sounds, though. These are like sounds
Yeah.
out of a life.
That's what it felt like to me too. Like I had heard them before. That was very vivid.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, like we really touched on everything that I wanted to touch on here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we'll do recommendations and then close her out.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
All right, Justin, as our special guest, what piece of media that you've experienced recently would you like to recommend?
Oh, jeez.
It
I was not.
could be anything.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
And you know what? We'll let you go last.
Okay.
To let you think about it.
Okay, fine.
Like it could be a book that you read recently, a TV show that you thought was
Okay.
interesting,
A game, whatever.
a game. Maybe
Okay.
you saw a painting for some reason, or like whatever. It could be anything. Just what do you think that's an interesting project that's out there that isn't connected to you necessarily?
Fair enough.
Brendan, did you have anything?
Well, other than vastly recommending anything by Jeff Lemire, and I have read a large portion of his independent work, not so much his DC Marvel stuff, but his independent work. You should definitely check some of that stuff out. But I started watching this anime called Gigantia in the Verduous Planet. And it's kind of a really interesting sci-fi piece about an alien who gets stuck on a sort of post-apocalyptic Earth, who all live on ships now and have to travel the seas, picking up these electricity from these nano machines, sort of thing. But it's a really
cool.
fascinating character study in that, like, his psychology is he's a soldier and that's all he does, and he has got to eliminate the enemy, and then when he starts seeing the enemy, which are like a sacred creature on Earth, like there's all kinds of these weird tensions, and like he doesn't understand, like it's a very interesting character psychology study in like this sort of idea of fish out of water, but like more so than a lot of other things I've seen, where it's like he's not necessarily even trying to learn their culture. He's just trying to do what he's there to do.
just trying to cope with it. It sounds like.
Yeah. So I thought it was
Okay.
pretty cool. I'm about 7 of 13 episodes in.
Well, so I as something that I wanted to recommend, I've been recently watching American Gods, and I think it looks really nice because it's Brian Fuller doing that. But what I would actually recommend is go back and watch some of his older stuff. Go back and watch like Pushing Daisies, the way that he uses color and light and to set scenes in that. It's really impressive.
I'm a big fan of Dead Like Me.
Yeah, Dead Like Me is amazing. Doesn't look, I think, as visually well constructed as something like Pushing Daisies, but it was a really good show.
Fair enough.
Certainly interesting the way it explored the consequence of death.
For sure. All right, your turn, Justin.
All right. So I consume a lot of my stories through video games. I'm very interactive in how I consume stuff. So Deus Ex: Mankind Divided,
Yeah.
the most recent in the series. I love the whole series because it's very deep for being a shallow world. Generally, because it's a game, but it's very deep. There's a lot of books in it that you read, a lot of data pads. The story is branching. I find it very engrossing, even though like the main character is very bland, because they make them kind of want to be bland because you want to be that character. You kind of want to impart yourself upon him.
Yeah, self-insert character.
Yeah. But that whole series has been amazing. Number 2, not so much.
You didn't wait. Which number 2 you're talking about?
Oh, Deus Ex Invisible War.
Oh, you're talking about the okay.
Yeah, there's Deus
Not
Ex
the-
Invisible War. Then there's Human Revolution. Then Mankind Divided.
Yeah.
I played Human Revolution once a year since it came out.
It's really good.
I love the replay of it, and then the newest one I've been doing the same.
I have not tried it yet. I have it. It supports not binocular, but it supports depth perception if you have a head-mounted display.
Love that Binoculus Rift.
Binoculus Rift, yeah. So I can do it with my where is it? No, it's over here. With my Vive, which is sitting up back there. I want to actually try that and get a feel for having some depth in that game.
Yeah, but the art style is amazing. It's very warm. It's very clinical.
Yeah, I like that style. I know in the first game they tried to aspire to have that aesthetic of like a brick wall that will meet with another wall that's like a perfect white apple plastic kind of thing. You have that grit and refined nature at this like immediately adjacent.
Yeah, like you have the old world and the new world is literally placed on top of it.
Yeah, well, that's very thematic of what's going on, and especially in Human Revolution, because I know the art designer in that was very much intending to create that cyber renaissance, the neo-renaissance kind of a feel.
Yeah.
For sure. I haven't played them. Sorry.
Everyone should just go back and play the original Deus Ex. It still stands up.
I see you have some Xbox 360 cables there, and it's on Xbox 360, the other ones.
I don't actually have a working Xbox. I brought that up to give to somebody.
Oh.
Oh, well, there you go.
But yeah. All right. So, yeah, I think that's the episode.
Yeah, I think that's us for these 2 weeks anyway.
All right. So, last but not least, shout outs. Justin, social media, what do you got?
I'm on Twitter at corkboardmind. Corkboardmind. Other than that, not really. I dabble in Instagram, but it's mostly random pictures and stuff.
Okay.
I had a drone working for a while, not anymore, so...
Well, we might see more footage in the future. When you get that
probably,
back.
yeah. Once it comes back in the mail.
Okay. Yeah, well, as with anything that's as complex as that, there's possibility for failure. It's too bad.
Yep.
So you can find me on Twitter at MC Pepperpockets. I'm also have a blog that is Burial at Sea. That's the letter C, not the ocean.com. You can check that out.
Yeah, and you can find me here on Accidental Origin every Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then on Twitter at FreakLabMishap, though that will be changing in the near future, and on my website, accidentalorigin.com. So yeah, thanks for joining us today, guys. We appreciate it. Thanks for that raid, Stevie. Appreciate that as well. Yeah.
So should we... Are we doing the longer interval next time?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's going to be 3 weeks until our next broadcast.
Right.
Because we found difficulty for having enough time to read the books ourselves, but also I think the bigger issue is guests. Everyone's busy, so trying to find someone who has the time to read a book every month is difficult.
Yeah, and we're going to be reading Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. That's what we decided.
So you can read up the first half of that along with us. We will be live again on the 26th of June at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yep, that is correct. So, yeah, like I was saying, thanks for joining us, guys. We really appreciate it. Thanks for that raid, Stevie. Thanks for all the follows and all that jazz. Yeah,
thank you, everyone out there on the internet.
Peace out. Thanks for joining us, Justin. We appreciate that, too. But, yeah, read more Jeff Lemire. Do it. See you guys later.
See you later, Internet.
Bye bye.